roughly, yeah, before I ask you to go with interview question on current conflict resolution in South Sudan, then I will ask you more questions about the root cause and also the role of Western Peace International, failure peace negotiation, role of African Union, and failure international community intervention, and the way forward on current conflict in South Sudan. So, first of all, I have to introduce myself. My name is Dina Maruach. I'm a South Sudanese musician. So, today we have a big discussion, and then I will interview Professor Dishon to brief the public media on resolution conflict in South Sudan. So, Professor Dishon, tell me about about yourself.
Thank you very much, Mr. Dina Maruach. It's a great opportunity. I am Professor David Dishon, former Sudan ambassador and former senior national expert in the presidency in Sudan prior to the split of South Sudan from North Sudan. I've taught here. I'm a political scientist, political economist by training. I'm also trained in the field of international relations and international law. I've taught in several schools here in the United States, and later on I went to Sudan. And in Sudan I work, and then I went to Germany to do my postdoc in the field of international comparative law and international law at Max Planck Institute at Heidelberg, or MPI. And later on I moved on to the Netherlands, to Leiden, where I did research in the African Institute on Human Rights in Africa in particular. So my education background, I have a PhD in political science, as I said, and master's degree in public administration and public policy from the University of Maine. My PhD is from Clark Atlanta University. And I taught at Georgia State University, Georgia Tech School of International Affairs in Atlanta, Georgia. And I've also taught at Xavier University in New Orleans. So I also did some research with many organizations here in the United States prior to going to South Sudan. You asked me about my background, my military. I served in the United States Army. I'm a veteran. And so this is all I can tell you very vividly, and my CV would explain everything to you in the foreseeable future. Thank you very much.
Yeah, before I will go to root cause of war on December 13, 2013, so I want to ask you a question. When South Sudanese get their independence on 2011, did you work with Talpakir and Remasha in the regime? Did you?
Not at all. I have not worked in Juba. I have not worked in the government of South Sudan because I didn't like it from the beginning. When we went there to talk about the constitution, I was then the leader of the opposition parties. And I warned them, I told them, this kind of constitution that you give all the power or lump all the powers on one person, that is a dictatorship. And in fact, I was not in good terms with John Luke, Makwelwe, and Larjin, because they were the ringleaders. So I even termed the constitution as a Musketeer party, Deng, Makwelwe, and John Luke constitution. So I walked out. I have not worked in Juba, and I've not been to Juba since 2010. So I cannot work in that type of government because I did warn them, and I've written a lot about it. I told them, if you are going to go like this, you're going to have a war before 2015, and it did happen exactly on 2/13. So everything I've said, corruption, lack of governance, entrenched tribalism, lack of institutional arrangement, lack of security, etc., were the basic problems that led to the war. And then again, within the party itself, I've told them, you are going to divide yourselves in the ruling party, the SPLA, and that happened also. That's when Mr. Salva Kiir moved to try to dissolve the party. So this is what I know. I have not worked in Juba, and I would not have liked to work in Juba also, because I felt the government was not well organized, and it is now what I call family government, because Salva has his own and Machar got his own, and if you don't have anybody, it doesn't matter how much you're qualified, you are out of the loop. Secondly, even though you are a highly educated individual who could contribute to the welfare of the country, you are not even liked. Probably, if they don't like you, they can murder you and nobody will know your whereabouts, as many people have died thus far.
Thank you. So now we will go to South Sudanese Hard Talk about the root cause of civil war December 15. Because some leaders in Africa, they failed to address, especially South Sudan. Even the rival leader of Machar failed to address the public to inform what had happened in South Sudan, especially genocide there. So can you brief the public about the root cause of war on December 15? What are the root cause of war between Salva Kiir and Vice President Riek Machar?
This is also a very great question, and I think that's the heart of the matter. The root causes of the war in South Sudan are multiple. One, there's power struggle. There's power struggle between Machar and Salva Kiir, and was also a struggle among all the SPLM political bureau, because they were not in agreement with what was taking place inside the party. So the root cause of war, one of it is that they failed. The party has disintegrated itself, divided itself into two, and they could not agree. And they also failed to call people like Museveni and Kenyatta and other East African leaders to come and resolve their question. That was one of the points that led to the war. Secondly, the party was dissolved by Mr. Salva Kiir unilaterally, and that also created another problem. So the root cause of the war was a party problem, and then they transferred it into tribal war. So right now we can call what is going on in South Sudan first as a party war within, and then they transferred it to the tribes. So Salva Kiir used the Dinka tribes and Machar used the Nuer tribes as a source of their power, and that is what led to genocide and systematic human rights violations. So we think that these two guys have messed up the revolution of the people of South Sudan, and that there is no way they can continue to govern South Sudan. So it means the purpose of this meeting is a call for regime change. If this has not been pronounced by anyone, I am now at liberty to pronounce it to the whole world that South Sudan needs regime change.
Okay, so some people, they accused Riek Machar at that time. It was declared himself to run for the ticket in the same party. In addition to that, it took a criticism to Salva Kiir Mayardit. Some people, they say the cause of war is all about Dr. Machar, because Dr. Machar criticized Salva Kiir Mayardit was corrupted in the same system.
Well, this is very obvious. Mr. Salva Kiir is the president and Machar is the vice president. They were elected on the same ticket as member of the SPLA. So if they had differences, the mistake of what happened within the party could not be lumped on one individual. I think it could be lumped on all of them. There were some ringleaders, some renegades within the SPLA that were working to try to dismantle the system because they want to be in power, especially the so-called Garang's boys or Grunts or Nyandeng's orphan. They were the one responsible for what happened in South Sudan. They wanted power. And power, you don't get power when you know you don't have anything. You have to give power to people who can do it democratically. If you are not elected, why do you want power? A mistake that Machar did, that I should blame him for, was that he wanted to run for the president. He and Salva Kiir could not run on the same ticket, on the same party. I wish he would have had left the party and then create his own political party. But when the war happened, he was somebody running away. If Salva Kiir found him in his house, even though he was a private citizen, I'm sure he would have been killed. So he was running for his life. And when he formed the movement, already he found some people there in the movement. I am one of the opposition there, and I was the first and among equal that pronounced it to the world that there was no coup in Juba, that it was a plot to kill the so-called G10 and to kill Riek Machar. And Museveni was a ringleader of that group because Ugandan armed forces fought side by side with Salva Kiir army and his militia, and they failed. They died a great death in South Sudan.
Of course, now you take the point, because at that time, on accusation of coup on December 15, several former ministers of SPLM called a reform together with Dr. Machar. So the name the people are following, Taban Deng was one, Wiyai Deng Ajak was one, John Luke, Joa, Gail Chuang, Deng Alo, Paganamo, Peter Ado, Alfred Lado. All these people were called the reform in the same parties. Why Salva Kiir turned out war on ethnic line and ordered his private armed militia to target Nuer tribe in capital Juba? Why not? They did not target others group.
First of all, you must know that always when you are big and you are strong and you have the potential to defeat the enemy, people will target you. So Salva Kiir targeted the Nuer for a very particular purpose. Any Dinka leader is always afraid of the Nuer people because they know the history. Nuer was the only ethnicity that was not colonized by the British in Sudan. That's a history part. Now, because they got the arms, they think they can turn the history, but history will not be turned that way. So the war has not yet been fought. What happened only a piece of the iceberg. So I'm saying the reason Salva Kiir targeted the Nuer was because of other historical events. Particularly in 1984, late Colonel William Abdallah Shaw Deng killed a lot of Dinka come from Barghazal on their way to Ethiopia for training, because that was a revenge of what happened to Colonel Samuel Gaitut in that area. Secondly, Mr. Salva Kiir lived in Upper Nile, he worked there, maybe he was not happy with the Nuer people. So he targeted them because of fear of the unknown. And I think you would recall that John Garang said, well, South Sudan was going to be destroyed by the Nuer, but that's not true. South Sudan is now destroyed by the Dinka. This is a fact, and we cannot deny that. So that was one of the reasons why Salva Kiir took up arms against the Nuer for the first time, and then later on expanded to other groups. So right now, because we cannot say that Nuer have been the only people that have been genocide in South Sudan, but they were the first. But later on, genocide is spread like a fire in South Sudan. Henceforth, Mr. Salva Kiir has not been governing South Sudan as a leader of a country, but he has been governing on tribal basis.
Okay, thank you. So when I see the war in 2013, it has links. It has linked or connected with 1984 conflict to 1991. Do you think the war in 2013, the genocide 2013 in Juba, linked with 1984 to 1991?
Certainly. You know that what happened in 1984 was not good. It happened, but nobody talked about it. Even Garang, even by around about 1984 up to 1987, John Garang started to genocide Nuer. Okay, especially when they took the young boys, the Red Army, took them to Eastern Equatoria. None of them ever returned back to their own families. Garang murdered them all, Kwal Manyang, and many others. I can name including the Vice President Wani Ega. He killed. So they're all killers there in Juba. They are murderers, including Salva Kiir himself. Salva Kiir murdered 150 or so morally in Buma and buried many of them alive. So that was not articulated to the world, and we know that. So I'm saying that the reason for Salva Kiir to target the Nuer was a question of fear of the unknown. Nuer are good fighters, and the Dinka cannot fight the Nuer. And it has proven itself that they went and brought Ugandans, they brought Kenyan, they brought Rwandese, they brought Burundians, they brought M23. All of them failed, and many of them died a terrible death in Upper Nile area.
Okay, so I have some question again. So, why Remachar was apologized to Deng Kabur, and what he mean about his apology to them? Did Machar admit massacre against Deng Kabur?
Well, I don't know. I think we advised Machar.
Okay.
At that time, I was a lecturer here or an assistant professor in the United States. When I learned Machar wanted to apologize, and I went back to South Sudan in 1994, I told him, do not apologize because you did not do it. You have not ordered your forces to go and massacre the Dinkas. Even the Dinkas that ran to the Nuer land, they were not touched. But it was an anger because of the thing that Garang failed to address against the Nuer. And so the Nuer youth, well-armed in their villages, took the law into their own hands and went and did what happened in 1991, what is called the Boer incident. So it was not Machar. I don't understand why Mr. Machar apologized for what he did not do. I think that was a mistake.
Whom do you think last time we took a confrontation to Deng Kabur?
Why? The local people.
Or local people?
The local people, the youth.
Not
The Nuer White Army.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Not Machar.
Okay, thank you. So, what did you think was behind the massacre on December 15 in influence Salva Kiir to commit genocide against Nuer armed civilians?
Very good. This is a very good question, and I'm going to answer it vividly. I think the war itself is started by Dinka Boer leaders.
Okay.
Because they targeted Nuer, they want to revenge. They say what happened in 1991 or what will happen in 2013 is not going to be like what happened in 1991. But surely they made no dent. They killed Nuer civilian, and that's something that we have to leave with the court, the ICC and the hybrid court. Salva would have to go to court, Machar would have to go to court. All the generals that they have there in Juba, they will go to court to be investigated, to be interrogated, interviewed, and then taken to court to stand trial. If they are sentenced, they be put in for the rest of their lives. They will not smell freedom no more.
Do you know some people in the Boer community to influence Salva Kiir to commit genocide?
Yes, the Dinka leaders take Kwalmanyang, take Makwelwe, take George Bior Aswad, and take Dr. What do you call him? Dr. Majang Agor,
yeah.
and others. They took arms. I know Majang Agor took a lot of arms to Boer to go and threaten the Nuer and the Morley. Those are the two. Those are Dinka Boer's two rivalries in the state.
Do you think when they did that genocide, they mean it like revenge?
It is a revenge, of course. I would say it's a revenge. Okay. The Dinka Boer were revenging what happened in 1991, even though it was not done by Machar's army, because they were Nuer, so they have to revenge. And that's why they were talking in Juba, oh, this year, the next war is not going to be like what happened in 1991. But they made no dent. Nothing happened. They have not defeated the Nuer, and the Nuer could chase them out of Boer to go to Lake State if they wanted that. But Nuer did not touch the Dinka Boer. But the Dinka Boer influenced. Even a few weeks ago, Kwalmanyang and Makwelwe tried to influence Salva Kiir and told him, go and kill the Nuer before December, because they say they don't like the Nuer. Nuer will be in that South Sudan now and forever. Whatever threats Mr. Kwalmanyang and Makwelwe make will not deter the Nuer. The Nuer will be ready to defend themselves until the last man. They should know that.
Okay. Why Salva Kiir use intervention force, especially Uganda Armed Force, SPLA, NOS, Darfur Rebel Group, Kenya, Rwanda, Somalia, Burundi, Egypt, and Uganda, Rwanda M3 from the Eastern Congo? Why he use intervention force?
Because he used
to fight along his side.
He used that intervention force because he paid a lot of money to Uganda. He paid a lot of money to those government, those leaders, to protect himself. Because he knows without their intervention, Juba would not be what it is today. Juba would have been a ghost town. And if Nuer had returned to Juba after 51 days war in Bor or in Jonglei, Salva Kiir would not be surviving right now. But it's Machar that saved Salva Kiir because he refused that people should go to Juba. I wish the White Army and the regular army had returned to Juba when they were in Mangala or closer to Juba. Then they would have gone there and take over the city because there was nobody there. So I don't think that Mr. Salva Kiir knew very well that if he's going to start a war with the Nuer, it would be very unfortunate for him not to bring in other people. He used public money to buy favors from those people to come and protect him. That's why Museveni came, and Museveni was the first leader. Museveni army was the first to arrive South Sudan on the 12th of December 2013.
Okay, so why Dr. Machar returned the YM when they tried to go to Juba? Then they called YM to come back, not to reach,
this is something
to confront Juba.
I was in the north, and this is something that was very unfortunate on the part of Machar. Machar is not a nationalist. Machar does not like his own people. He has killed so many of them, and he deceived the people, and the people don't want change. However, now people are waking up to find out what kind of a man is Machar. Machar, we can recall, when incident of Malakal, he went and cried because soldiers were being killed by other soldiers. That's war. People have to die in a way. But Machar has an agenda of his own. Machar made up his mind to become the president, and he was trying to buy favors from Salva Kiir to continue or to return to Juba to become the vice president. He does not care, but he's waiting to say he wants to become the president of South Sudan, but without his constituency, which is the largest constituency, he cannot become the president of South Sudan no matter what.
Did international community say anything about genocide of Juba?
No, the United Nations knows about that genocide has been committed, but nobody talk about it. Machar did not talk about it. Juba did not talk about it. Even the church groups, the Sudan Council of Churches, did not talk about the genocide in South Sudan. So they covered it up. And this is something that will come. The regime will not be there for everlasting. The regime will be toppled.
Of course, you touch the point right now. It means when the international community did not recognize the massacre in capital Juba is because the leader of the rebel group and the leader of the church did not inform the social media.
Not only social media, they did not inform the international community of what happened in South Sudan. That genocide has been committed. And that was the mistake of the South Sudan Council of Churches. Because they are men of God, they should be able to be standing in front of those who become the victims of genocide, those who have been targeted. I think what they have done was similar to what the Catholic Church did during the Second World War against the Jews.
Oh, the Jews.
So they are not concerned about the Nuer, whether they die or they live, because they are afraid of the Nuer. And for that reason, now the Nuer would have to wake up and would have to stand up for their rights to remain in South Sudan, and they would have to live like the Israelis to protect themselves.
Okay, thank you. To brief the public media about the root cause of war. So, Tutlual, can you have an opinion to share this discussion on resolution conflict?
Yes. I will just add something on the top of what Professor said. My name is Dhoal Larjin, and what I will add is I'm the leader of the UPSS, and what I will add is a little bit about the root cause. When the root cause, actually, when the war broke out in Juba, I was in Juba. I was working in the SPLA headquarters in Juba, where actually the war actually broke out. And because I worked there for almost 4 years in Juba, I had a lot of handful experience about what was going on in the Juba and what was to be said to be the conflict. And I believe it was actually tribalism. The war that was caused is a tribal war caused by tribalism. This is the reason I say that is because there was a kind of tribalism practice within Juba, in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, in the Ministry of Defense, in the army itself where I work. A lot of tribalism being practiced, in which way the Denka and the Nuer, usually they have conflict of the victory. Everyone, they want to own the victory of South Sudan that they brought up, they fought for South Sudan. Another thing, maybe they will say that many people were killed and they need to tension to take a revenge. So that is why the war actually broke out. It's not because of the SPLM or because of the party. I would say no, that is not, because even in Juba, was a merging of several different forces, the forces of Folina Matip, forces of Riek Machar, and forces of Salva Kiir. Those are the forces that actually made up the Juba security. And what happened is that these forces, they have conflict before. The conflict was not addressed during the independence. So because the tribal conflict was not addressed, it just popped up after the independence. And it popped up because some of the forces from Riek Machar, especially from the SIM, most of the commanders, they were arrested in Juba while they were in Juba. So they were serving jail, they were in jail. For example, General Garweber was arrested, he was in jail. This guy, Tanginya, was also in jail. This Dhoal was in jail. So many commanders, and this Commander Kang, all officers that were serving SIM, they were arrested. And some of them, they were serving half year simply because they were Nuer and they were accused of killing the Denka in 1991. So that is why there was tension. And when the war broke out in the army, it was a tribal war. And after that, after we actually, those who were armed were chased out, most of the Nuer, we were chased out from Juba. And the Denka went on and actually commit what I call a genocide of the Nuer. So they come and search door to door in all the villages where the Nuer are actually living, and that's why you hear there's a mass killing. So it was the searching, and that's why we say this cause of the war is a tribal war,
okay.
And it's caused by tribalism.
Okay, tribal war. Okay, thank you. David, do you have any opinion about the root cause of the war in South Sudan? Because Tutlual say right now the root cause of the war is tribal war. This is why the people were fighting in capital Juba, because they accused Dr. Machar was did the genocide in Deng in 1991. This is the link.
Yeah, actually my opinion is very clear that when the war took place in 2013, in December 15, we already knew that Nuer was being killed by the Dinkas, and from the very beginning, before the killing took place, I think two leaders they did not understand each other in their party. So especially Machar were trying to run against the Salva Kiir, trying to be elected as a coming leader to become a next president in the country, which everybody have never aware about that, because when you see our president is being followed, it's definitely you can run for the same ticket in the same post. It is very possible. So and it is very clear that we knew that it's very clear to Salva that Riek, if he tried to take my post, is trying to be against me, and that why Salva get jealous to Riek and kick Riek out and kill.
Thank you. The reason now, because Riek Machar was declared to run for the ticket in the same party.
Yes.
And also took criticize to Salva Kiir in the same system.
Of course.
Okay, thank
Yeah.
you.
Now, I just want to add one thing. I could not agree more with what they've just added to what I said
Okay,
earlier.
okay.
What I know is that in 2013 or even before 2013, there was always suspicion.
Exactly. Suspicion.
Suspicion from Salva Kiir against Machar.
Okay.
Because when you look at them educationally, Salva does not have an education.
Education, exactly.
He does have anything in his head except the big head
Okay,
that
exactly.
he had.
Okay.
It's an empty head.
Okay.
Machar is really a PhD and a professor.
Oh, yeah, okay.
So he always lived in a state of suspicion that Machar wanted his position. But this is not his position. It's a public position. Anybody can run for that office. If the people elected him, that person, it doesn't matter whether Nuer or a Dinka or an Anwak or anybody, as long as the people say this is their leader, Salva must understand that. Now, Salva, because he's a dictator, and he tests power, he tested power, he doesn't know how to relinquish power. If then were, even though they were one party, they should not have led to destruction of a people's revolution or a country. Now South Sudan is a failed state. And that failure would be attributed to Mr. Salva Kiir legacy and his Dinka leaders. So it is not Nuer. So again, Machar did not read the history of South Sudan well, because the so-called G14 or the G10 we know today, they were all anti-Machar, and they were the people trying to influence Machar against Salva, so that when they get power, they will kick Machar out or assassinate him, and then they will bring one of their own, especially Majak Agot. So the Boer guys are responsible for the war in 2013, and I'm going to put it there historically for the record.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. So let me go back. Now we're done for the root cause of civil war in South Sudan. So let's go to another topics, site for peace. Let me go back to Professor Dishan on this question. Why peace agreement on conflict resolution in South Sudan failed many times for implementation? While Salva Kiir and Riek Machar, they signed several agreements in front of international community such as African Union, IGAD, and Trachea. Why the peace failed?
Well, I want you to know
Many times like that.
Yeah, I want you to know that when you have a dictator, Salva is a tyrannical leader and a dictator. So he doesn't want to relinquish power. He sees that if there were to be peace to be implemented, then he would find himself out of the loop. So he's trying to maintain power that he doesn't know how to do it. Have you ever heard Salva talking about economic development, about educational development, about social development, about healthcare, about anything? You cannot start a nation like South Sudan by building beer factories. People are drinking every day, and then bringing prostitution and other things. I think that's where he failed. So because Mr. Salva Kiir is a dictator of the third kind, the worst dictator in Africa, he does not want peace to come because that will take him out of the loop of power. So I think the reason they fail is because they are not honest among themselves, Machar and Salva Kiir. Or they are playing tactics like they have done now. The peace that was signed in Khartoum, they called the so-called peace, I was there and I have not participated in it because I knew from the beginning it would not happen, it would not work, it would not be implemented. And surely now it is not implemented. They were to start implementing it few months before May the 12th. May the 12th came now, they extended to 6 months, and then Salva arrived Juba and extended to 1 year. So that's a delaying tactic. He does not want peace to come in South Sudan. Conclusively, I would say that peace will never return to South Sudan as long as Salva Kiir remains the president and Machar the vice president, because they don't have the capacity nor the ability to rule South Sudan. So what do? That's why we started this movement called Movement for Regime Change, in order to get rid of these guys as well as the government as a whole, and we start from square one.
Okay, I have another question here. It seems like Machar and Dr. Machar, they signed a many agreement here. So, the challenge question, did Salva Kiir and Machar address the root cause of war for reconciliation?
No, they haven't, because
Okay.
of suspicion that exists among themselves.
Okay.
Machar and Salva Kiir, they think that if they talk about the root causes of the war, then one of them would have to go. But I don't want one of them to go, another one remain. I want both of them to go, including Taban Deng guy, which superimposed himself to something that he doesn't deserve. He will never go down in the history of South Sudan as the vice president of South Sudan. In the record, for the record, it will not happen because he's told something that he doesn't deserve. And his community did not appoint him to become their leader. So he did it because he wanted money. He betrayed his community.
Okay. So, second question to you, it could be very simple. Did Machar sign a sharing power with Salva Kiir to fulfill the oath for protection the people of South Sudan, such as secure arrangement, federalism to govern a three-state, compensation, and reparation?
In 2016, when 2015 agreement, it was a very good agreement that would have resolved the question, because it was concluded that there would be two armies and that there would have been power sharing. If those guys had implemented those that were signed in 2015, I'm sure genocide would not have occurred in South Sudan. At the same time, Mr. Salva Kiir does not want to share power with anybody. So I should say that all that was signed by the two guys in Addis Ababa or wherever they signed it was just nonsense. Salva Kiir is a tyrannical leader and a dictator of the third kind. He wants power because, you know, he's a primitive man, not well educated, and doesn't have the vision, and does not have transformative leadership capabilities. So he just wants to be there. So that's why I describe him as a tribal leader rather than a president of South Sudan. South Sudan does not have a president. If you are a president, you don't discriminate your own population. You don't kill them. Who are you going to rule? Nobody. And this is something that will haunt Mr. Salva Kiir as long as he remains the president, even will be in his own legacy. And my call to the Dinka cousins is that do something. Show the rest of the South that what Salva Kiir perpetrated against them was wrong. But I don't see any Dinka would come out and do that. But how long they will remain in power? Not too long.
When they signed the peace on 2015, when Dr. Machar went to capital Juba, so the war was broken between two parties. Okay? When the war broke in two parties, so in J1, so when the war was broken, so the force of Salva Kiir Mayardit fight with force of Riek Machar, and then Riek Machar was defeated into Congo. And then after that, Dr. Machar, when Dr. Machar come back, Dr. Machar say that I want to sign the same agreement again to work together with Salva Kiir. Why Dr. Machar try to come back and agree again with Salva Kiir Mayardit to share a transitional government?
Well, Bashar, you know, as an ambition, he wanted to become the president of South Sudan by any means necessary, but he will not get it. If the newer people or the newer nation cannot stand behind him, now he has failed totally. He's not even considered as a leader right now. I'm talking with you. So the reason he did that, he wanted to appease Salva Kiir. He wanted to appease it because he does not have logical reasoning to see what he could, we could have done. When he went to Juba, I asked him, I said, don't go to Juba. You're going to become a sacrificial lamb. It's just because God did not say he was going to die. If God says so, he would have been dead in Juba because he was betrayed by his own brother-in-law, Taban Deng, and others. It is Taban. Taban and Paul Malonga one were the one that did this arrangement in 2015 or 2016 war in order for them to get rid of both Salva Kiir and Riek Machar, because Malonga one wanted to become the president, and Salva Kiir and Taban Deng wanted to become the vice president at the expense of both Machar and Salva Kiir. So that was the root, of course, of the war, and that must be addressed. And we can put it down in the book of history for the record. It's there. I know in Cuba they try to write a history that is a very awkward history, but people who are trained in the field of history and government and political science will have to fix it and put it in the right direction.
Okay. In the war of 2016, the son of Dr. Machar was killed in capital Juba. So I don't know the way how Dr. Machar feels. If somebody killed your son, do you think that you can work with somebody who killed your son?
No, not only your son, people who kill your own ethnicity.
Exactly.
People who kill your own ethnicity with determination by Paul Malonga one that anywhere would have to change his name. We fought English for 30 years, we have not changed our name. Can we change our name now because of Paul Malonga one and Salva Kiir? Never. Over my dead body.
Okay, all the agreement they signed, Dr. Machar and Salva Kiir Mayardit. After all, Salva Kiir Mayardit called the peace agreement is forgiveness. Why call the peace agreement is forgiveness?
Forgiveness, killing civilians, that's forgiveness. I think I want Salva Kiir to resign and be taken to court. No matter, even if he dies, he will be tried by the court posthumously after his death. And therefore, Machar made a mistake by saying he's going back to Juba to war with Mr. Salva Kiir, and he knows Salva Kiir already planned to kill him. Even if he were to go to Juba now, Machar would be a dead body. So my advice to Machar, in despite the fact that I am not working for him now, he shouldn't go to Juba. He should find himself a place elsewhere.
Why both Salva Kiir and Machar turned on the peace and postponed to next year? Why? When they meet Pope in Europe.
They met Pope in Europe, they didn't mean well. When they went there, they were going for a show. Perhaps the Pope meant it well. But for the two, because they have suspicion among themselves, they don't want to implement that peace. So that's one of the reasons why they say it would be extended for 6 months and then another year, because they are afraid of each other and they cannot work with each other.
Do you think if they postpone the peace to next year, do you think that they will implement the peace?
I doubt it very much. It's dead.
Young didn't say
Okay.
they are not hearing us.
Okay.
They are not. Is it? Like they,
Tutlual, do you have an opinion about this, the failure of peace agreement? Because Salva Kiir and Deng Machar, they signed several peace, but
Yeah,
they didn't
I-
accomplish anything about all this peace.
Yes, I will. First of all, there is somebody saying that they don't hear us.
We don't need
tonight,
it. We
but
don't need
it's okay. This one is working. We have, guys, we have our own thing that we can back up the technology. So if you don't hear it, it's okay. Yes, the question I will do not even adjust it. Just leave it this way. The question is no, just leave it that way. You can, oh yeah, that's the issue. We got it. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, so what is your question now, Dina? What is
My
your
question is all about Salva Kiir and Deng Machar. They were signed several peace agreements, but all peace agreements they signed in Addis Ababa and Khartoum, they were all failed. So do you think that there will be implementation? And also, they postponed the peace this year into next year. Do you think that, do you hope there will be a peace implementation next year?
Yeah, actually, I would say that the reason for so many fail of this peace is basically because the root cause of the war is not addressed. That is why they keep going and retorting on the way that they go back, they come back, and then they're trying to address the power here of the SPLA. It doesn't work out. Simply is because the current war we have is a tribal war and it's caused by tribalism. So the root cause has never been put on the table. That is one of the reasons that I believe is those peace, they don't work. Even if they are 100, they will never work until they put tribalism on the table and try to discuss it. Maybe it will resolve the conflict. So the reason it is not working is because one, root cause of the war, which is tribalism, is not addressed yet in South Sudan. Second, it is because the agenda which is discussed, SPLM agenda, which is a power hearing, has confused so many people, including the international community, including the IGAD country. They confuse the international community about what happened in South Sudan, about the issue of South Sudan. And usually, when they sign the peace agreement, usually they get stuck on the implementation, which is a secured arrangement. Secured arrangement, many people don't know, is that the two army which is proposed 25,000 from each. Usually it was proposed by IGAD country, including America, and it was seconded by, it was opposed by Troika, seconded by the IGAD, and they suggested that these two parties to agree for these two arms. But usually the IO, which is by Machar, rejected the 25,000, and also Kir rejected the 25,000 proposal. That could actually end the war, but they refused it in case actually they just decided to take the bodyguard to go and protect themselves. So they agree only for Machar to be going to Juba with the bodyguard and Kir with bodyguard, and they going to Juba, so they ignore the unified army. That is why they cannot go anywhere with the peace agreement. So
Yeah.
that's what I was saying.
Yes, I have a caveat to add to that. The failure of the peace agreement in Juba, well put, and I think is in line with what I've said earlier.
Yeah.
But I have another thing to add here.
Yes, go ahead.
One, the leaders in East Africa who have been involved in the war, they do not want peace because that's a source of income. They get a lot of money from South Sudan, particularly Uganda. Its soldiers fought and died plenty in South Sudan. So it will not want to withdraw right now. It does not know who is going to be the next president. If the next president comes, he might be anti-Uganda because of what they have done in South Sudan. Secondly, Kenya government is poor. They need money from South Sudan because of the oil. And so for that reason, peace, as I said, and I'm going to reiterate it again, will not come until Mr. Salva Kiir and Machar are out of power. They must step down. And all foreign forces must withdraw from South Sudan, with the exception of UNAMIS, to provide protection to the local and those in the UNAMIS compounds.
Okay, let me come back to ask you this question number 3. What role did international community play on conflict resolution in South Sudan for implementation?
I think the international community has not played an effective role. They assigned that role to Troika, and Troika did not do its job. Again, when we come to EGAD is a failed institution, and I know this as somebody who participated in the peace process in Sudan prior to the split of the country under what we call the paradigm of two states, or the paradox of two states. They separated. For this reason, they don't want to resolve it, because those African countries closer to South Sudan, they have similar problems like that we have in South Sudan. And they are all dictators. So they cannot solve the question in South Sudan. So for that reason, they just want the status quo to be on as long as they're getting what they want out of South Sudan. And they are afraid also, if South Sudan were to become a stable state, small, potentially very rich with resources, then South Sudan will surpass them and they will remain down. So the best thing is to create some kind of a confusion from within. This is the policy of people like Lama Col and other minority group who say, we must confuse the majority, the Nuer and the Dinka, and we, the minority, will unite and then take over power from them. This is not going to happen, because demography is not in favor of minorities in South Sudan. It is in favor of the Dinka and the Nuer. There will be no country without a Nuer or a Dinka. These are the two majority groups, and they will dictate the affairs of the state forever.
Why the UN peacekeepers fail to protect civilians in UNAMIS camp? Still, the South Sudan government target the civilian.
Yes, I think from the beginning it was a fear on the UN. That was before, the number was small, but when the Ethiopian and other peacekeepers were brought in, I think that threat to the UN, that small contingent in Juba, has dissipated, and now there is some security. Although some people go here and there, they only be killed in the city when they're seen there. And I think there's also a bad precedent for Mr. Salva Kiir government. And Salva Kiir must know that power will not be there for everlasting. It will change. One way or another, it's going to change hands, and I'm sure about this. And somebody will even come to me and say, what you said on the 26th May 2019 has come to reality. It is coming.
Why African Union and IGAD members state play to secure a peace process on conflict resolution? but they use a mechanism to delay tactics.
Right.
Do you think that they get benefit on the process?
Of course.
Also in South Sudan?
Of course, they got benefit from the government of South Sudan. They are being bribed. They are being given money, public money, to be used for a construction of the country. At the same time, they're getting money from the donors because they go to Addis Ababa and say, we are trying to solve the question of South Sudan, and they come out with nothing. So they want to fulfill their own egotism and their own national interests at the expense of South Sudanese.
Okay, so let's come to interesting question. What is the way forward, or what is the best mechanism solution that would end the suffering of the people against South Sudan?
The way forward is very simple. First, as long as we have not secured peace in South Sudan, we cannot talk about way forward. We must secure peace, and we must discuss the root causes of the war. When we agree on that, then we can move on. Secondly, Mr. Salva Kiir and Dr. Riek Machar, as well as Taban Deng, all of them must resign. They must step down. And when they step down, the whole government be dissolved. All those who have committed genocide or massacres against the innocent civilian people throughout South Sudan must be arrested, taken to jail, taken to either ICC or to hybrid court to stand trial, and put them behind bars for the rest of their lives, and let them not smell what we call freedom, ever.
Tutlual, I have a question.
Yes,
Do you think that Salva Kiir and Riek Machar would face ICC because they committed a war crime against humanity in South Sudan? Do you think they will face ICC?
Yes, I do believe Riek Machar and Salva Kiir will actually one day go to ICC and face international court, simply because our local court are very weak, and usually they are based on tribal lines, so they are not capable to try people with that power. But I believe with the proposal from the UN, which is the report is there, written by Abu Sango, the former president of Nigeria, has already talked about the genocide in Juba and genocide in Bor and all towns that genocide were committed based on tribal line. So I believe these two leaders, they will not escape to go to the court. They will both have to go to court, be tried, and if they are found guilty, of course they will have to face their war crime. So I believe they will have, what I will just ask our people or urge our South Sudanese people is actually not to cover them up because of they are your tribe. We have to come out and actually encourage that the ICC, the hybrid court, should actually be established in our local state, all the 10 states. There must be an ICC there, and we'll try all the commanders. That is what I will ask our people to support that, the proposal from Trika and IGAD for the court to be established in South Sudan.
Just a point to add to that. Yes, there is no way they can escape ICC or hybrid court. They must go. And not only two of them, the entire government of Salva Kiir, the generals, people like Dhoal, that's now being hidden by Salva Kiir and promoted him to the rank of a lieutenant general. He was the one who committed genocide in Bantu, castrated people, killed women and children. These men, what in the world could let him remain outside of this? I believe that the only way this guy will go to court is when we implement the policy of regime change. And my call to all South Sudanese is that let us come and unite, and we push for regime change. We speak with one voice, and when we achieve that, we will form a truly constitutional government and democracy. When I talk of constitutional government, ladies and gentlemen, I'm talking about a republic. Consists of 10 states, we divided into 3 regions, and the government must be elected, must be a government of the people, by the people, and for the people. But I cannot see a united, or what I call a united or government in South Sudan. I can only see the creation of a federal government of 10 states. We cannot have 36 states, we cannot have 21 states because we don't have the population, we don't have the money, we don't have the means to develop. I think we can be with 10 states, and then we can move on. However, if it fails that, it means every region now would have to fence out for itself, like what happened in Somalia. Now you have Hargeisa, Somalia is developing. It is not a de facto state, but the world is doing business with it. So I think, or Kurdistan, Iraq, or South Ossetia in Georgia, and others. This is where South Sudan is leading to now, unless something is done. And Salva Kiir and Riek Machar must be conscious of this. All that they're using are all delaying tactics. By next year, they say they extend it to 1 year. They want to be in power for everlasting. We cannot accept that.
Okay. Thank you, Professor Dishan. But you say that Trachea, African Union, IGAD, and Salva Kiir and Riek Machar, they were failed to implement the peace while people are suffering in the country.
Yes, of course.
So what will you do? Do you think that you will declare a new rebel group
Yes.
to fight against government, to
Why
change
not?
the regime?
Why not? You cannot do it. If we cannot do it peacefully, we have to do it by other means necessary. If it means military, we have a lot of manpower to be trained and to stage to Juba. Secondly, if Mr. Machar and Salva Kiir step down, then we'll bring about change peacefully. Still, they will not go for free. They will have to be taken to court, either ICC or Troika, or what we call hybrid court in Africa.
Now, are you prepared rebel group name like the political party, like the movement?
It's
You
a
prepare
movement.
anything?
It's a
Okay.
movement. There's a
So,
movement.
today you are ready.
This is a movement for regime change in South Sudan.
Okay.
It is political as well as military.
So
I don't have to hide anything.
now a lot of people are on social media, they are watching on us.
Yes.
Are you ready to declare your rebel new group?
I will
Also,
declare it. I will declare it.
Okay.
It takes only a little time. I will declare it.
Okay.
I'll tell them to wait. Be patient. The rebels are there. They are not dead. They are in the forest. They are in their own places. When the time comes for them, they will act.
Okay, before I will go to ask you for the new rebel group, so I want to go to Tutlual and David right there. So, what the way forward? If all the peace agreement fail in South Sudan, do you think that we have a mechanism that we can do to change the regime in South Sudan, to bring people, to end the suffering of the people in South Sudan?
Yes, I think there is a way forward. There is a solution to this conflict, and only if our people could listen to us, we, all the party that has actually come up and formed this new movement, we have a solution to the conflict. And our solution to the conflict is a regime change. So the regime change is calling, we are called, all the South Sudanese people, regardless of your tribe, to join the regime change, and then actually to fight this tribalism and the people who practice this tribalism, so that at least we can claim back our country. So yes, we have a hope that the regime change will help us from the crisis.
Okay, let me go to David Deng. David Deng, do you agree the way forward if Trachea, IGAD, African Union, and Machar and Salva Kiir Mayadi to bring peace in South Sudan while people are suffering right now? So people are waiting for peace. Do you agree that the solution or the way to end the cessation hostility, people can do something like new rebel group to change the regime?
Yeah, actually, when we talk about the peace through this movement, which is existing right now, there will be no peace at all between Riek and Salva Kiir. There will be no any peace that will take place in our own country, to tell you the reality, because they turn it to the business. They are making money. You know, now Machar now is living comfortably while his soldiers in the ground in Upper Nile, they are suffering. And also Salva Kiir, the same. So if we don't take hell out of these people, there will be no peace in this country. we must take Salva Kiir out, and Riek Machar, and Deng, Gach, and Waniga, and so on. All these people must face ICC, and they must be sentenced sometimes to the death, because they kill a lot of people. For sure, we are ready for regime change. There is no peace. If Salva and Riek Machar and so on are still in the power, there is no peace. There is no peace. Also, what I will add about this is because if you are still supporting Riek Machar and so-called Salva Kiir, you are wasting your time. You will be taken to ICC too, because you are supporting the crime.
The criminal people who bring war.
And that's all I could say.
Yeah, let me add a color. I would like to add a color to that. I think David and Mr. Larjin, Dhoal, have said it right. And I'm glad they had their opinion to my position. I am of the opinion that as long as we have Riek Machar and Salva Kiir fighting for power or struggling for power in South Sudan, peace is far in the galaxy. We will not have it soon. Peace will not return as long as those two men are there. So we South Sudanese, we need to unite our rank and file in order to get rid of these guys, and we proclaim our government, because we, the people, are the owners of the government. They are not the owners, because government comes from the people, and then we give it to the governors. But these guys, they have failed totally. There's no way you could reform them. And I'm going to use the term used by John Garang about NIF, that is a government that deformed to be reformed. So I think these guys, they are deformed to be reformed. That's the truth. So my position is this: Southern Sudanese must unite. We must create unity in diversity, cultural diversity, and multiculturalism. When we are united together, working together, trusting each other, and believing each other, we can move the mountains in Juba. Not Salva Kiir, not Riek Machar, not Deng, not Paul Malonga, not Daniel Wall, or not anybody. But anybody that's against the people of Southern Sudan must be taken out and be taken to court. And the court will decide their fate. And when they decide, when their fate have been decided, they will remain in jail for the rest of their lives, so they will never smell freedom, ever.
So today, you are ready to declare your new rebel group. So can you tell the public the name of your new party?
The new movement, the new movement or a party is called South Sudan Revolutionary Movement for Regime Change.
Okay.
Or you can put it in short. You can put it in short. Movement for regime change.
And why you declare it, and what you will do for it?
I will do it to mobilize the population as a whole to come together on non-tribal basis. People must work together, knowing that we are working to bring about change that all of us should benefit from. I do not believe that the so-called red card will make it. A red card cannot make it without an army. The only person that can make it would be the rebel groups in Upper Nile as well in Equatoria and Baragazal. They must unite their ranks and files in order to become a force against Salva Kiir in Juba.
Okay, thank you. So let me clarify. So Professor Tishan or David Tishan declared the new rebel group called South Sudan Revolutionary Movement or South Sudan Revolutionary Armed Force for Regime Change. So are you calling Salva Kiir and Riek Machar to step down?
Yes, of
to
course.
take over
Definitely,
the regime?
Definitely. That has been my ambition from day one. Since I became an opposition as early as 2005 up to now. I want these two guys to step down, and I want them to go to jail, be tried, be put in the jail, and I want government of Salva Kiir also to pay reparation for those that they have killed.
Exactly. Okay. Do you have an armed force that will topple the regime?
Of course we have. We have. Why not? I'm a rebel. If
What
you
will
want-
happen if, when you try to change the regime? What about the rebel group like Riek Machar? Because Riek Machar right now is waiting for peace to return back to Juba, you know, to work together with Salva Kiir.
If
What
even-
will happen?
I know that. What I know, I just came back from Sudan, from Khartoum. I know that not many rebels are with Machar. If he goes to Juba, he'll go alone with his wife and his personal relatives. But I know for sure, not any rebel now would want to go back to Juba and face what they faced in 2016.
I know
That I'm
because
aware of that.
I know the way they do forward, Machar and Salva Kiir Mayadi, they want to work in the same government, transitional government, but they want to block other people. So do you have a link with another ally, like especially like a rebel group,
Oh.
like Thomas Cirillo, what is called G10,
I
and
am-
also what is called Sum, and Paul Malone? Do you have a link with
I
group?
have link with. I would say that I'm calling for all the opposition groups against Machar and against Salva to come and join SSRM RC.
Okay, you.
So if that happened,
Mhm.
and I know like Sum is with us, is part of us, and others, they are part of us, so we will gather that. And the White Army is also part of us that Machar doesn't want, as well as, what do you call the one in Bentiu, they call what? Gojam is with us.
Yeah,
So,
Gojam and
Gojam and
Terchong.
White Army,
Gojam and Terchong,
Yeah, okay.
part of the.
Gojam and Terchong, they are with us. We will train them, but we will take a peaceful approach, first of all. When we exhausted everything peacefully, not through EGAT or African Union, but we have to go to the United Nations, like what happened in Yemen, like what happened in Syria, like what happened elsewhere. Because I do not believe that EGAT and AU will bring peace to South Sudan. They have already failed, and they have not succeeded in any conflict in Africa.
Do you have access with Red Card movement?
No, I have no contact with them, but they will be contacted. Why not?
Who are they?
I
But
don't
I don't
know.
know them.
I don't know them.
Then they just
But
post on
call-
social media, then they
call
say
themselves-
about
They call
regime
themselves
change.
Red Card. We will know who they are. They know us now who we are. We are a movement for regime change in South Sudan. What are they fighting for? Do they want regime change? If so, this is the place. Come and join us.
Now you clarify on social media to call regime change. The new rebel group is called South Sudan Revolutionary Movement or South Sudan Revolutionary Armed Force. For the regime change.
First of all, the political part of it is South Sudan Revolutionary Movement for Regime Change.
Mhm.
And then the military wing of it will be South
South
Sudan
Sudan
Revolutionary Armed Forces.
Okay. What do you think when David Ishan declared the new rebel group? What do you think about it? Because all the peace process in South Sudan, they are all failed. And Trakia, IGAT, they failed also to bring peace too. While people are suffering right now, all over the world. People are waiting for peace, and no peace is coming. And then the two leaders, they extend the peace into another year. What do you think about the new rebel group to change the regime in capital Juba?
Yeah, I think is something that we can say is visible and is going to work and is going to be better than any other proposal, simply because we take the responsibility and we are not giving the responsibility to foreigners like IGAD or what to be giving us the solution for our crisis. So our crisis depend on us, and regime change is the most effective way of solving a problem like a conflict, tribalism, because regime change will call the youth, because it is the youth that are actually the foundation of the nation. So the youth can actually take their arm and protect the civilian, protect their mom, protect their home, protect their villages from anything. And if the government they see is the government does not protect them, is killing them, they can actually change the government. That is the work of the regime. So I believe regime change is actually a better way of now, we the South Sudanese, we can look at it as a way forward, actually to claim our country back from all those SPLM groups.
Well, before you conclude, regime change, we will exhaust every means available on this process. If it fails, we have no alternative. We must exhaust every means available. But I do not believe EGAT or AU can, because they have never succeeded in any place in Africa. They fail in Angola, they fail in Rwanda, they fail in Ivory Coast, they fail in Liberia, they fail in Sierra Leone, they fail in Libya, they fail practically in every conflict in Africa, in Mozambique, Southwest Africa, everywhere. But I think now is the time for people of Southern Sudan to come together, to unite, to get rid of this tyrannical and dictatorship we have in South Sudan, by any means necessary.
Okay, so let's move forward. I have another question. So, if you declare like rebel group, do you think that you will contact Western world about the rebel group, because Salva Kiir and Machar and some African communities, they fail to bring peace in South Sudan?
We are different. We are different. We will take our approaches to the Western world. The Western world, this America, when it became a country and now a superpower, rebelled against Britain. So there's nothing wrong to rebel against your own country. They started by boycott, and then they came to Boston Tea Party, and then the American Revolution on July 1st, 1775. The same thing with the French, when they got rid of the philosopher kings, those who maintained power, on July 14, 1789. So exactly what we're doing regime changes is equivalent to those movements in Europe and America more than 300 years ago.
Okay, thank you. So the next question, if you are going to seek to change the regime of Salva Kiir in capital Juba, do you think you will bring a federalism into three-state region?
Sure. The reason we're calling for regime change is that the system now doesn't work. We will go federal. Federal will be divided into three regions: Barghazal, Equatoria, and Greater Upper Nile regions.
Are you going to fulfill the need of the people of South Sudan, such as education, welfare, health, and housing?
The reason we formed this movement is because we are interested in the welfare of the people. We'll bring them education, we'll bring them health, we'll bring health care, we'll bring them agricultural development, we'll bring them anything that they want, because they've got the resources. Those resources in a country, housing, public housing must be constructed for them to live a better life. Schools, universities must be open for their children to go to school. So I think they need this. They must have better health, better food, and they will become healthy. So the purpose of regime change is to bring back these things that have been denied them by the current regime.
So, do you think when you will succeed to topple the regime, do you think your government will be elected government to vote people for their right?
I am not a dictator. Once the regime change succeeded, the government belonged to the people, by the people, and for the people. Every office that someone wants to occupy, he must stand in election, he must be elected in that office for a certain term. Even the president cannot be there for 30 years. He can either serve 1 term, 4 years, 1 term, or 8 years, 2 terms in office. After that, he becomes a private citizen like what we have in the Western world and in many countries. So we want system that would be democratic, system that would be just, system that would be fair, and system that will provide liberty, equality, and social justice for all.
Thank you. So, okay. This is the last one. So, what do you think about the state of South Sudan? Could be 30 states, 21 or 10 states if you are succeed on your political agenda to change the regime.
Again, I will reiterate again that South Sudan does not deserve to have 36 or 21 states.
Okay.
South Sudan deserves to have 10 states.
10 states, okay.
Because of our population, because we have no money
Okay.
to bring development to the people. We have no money for education. We have no money for agriculture development. We have no money for everything that will satisfy the needs of the people. So 10 states is much more reasonable. And then as our population stabilizes, children are born, they turn to 18, We are more, we can create, maybe in 3 regions, 1 state at each state. Then we become 13 states, we become 16 states, we become 19, and we become 21, and on and on and on and on. That will depend on the population.
So what happens if South Sudan would refuse formation of federal state based on 10 states? What happens if they refuse, like federal state?
If they refuse, let me say to the people of South Sudan, it would be better that we live together in a federal system. But if you refuse, it would be better off that each region, with its inherited political boundaries, will become a mini state of its own and will fan out for its own people. If they become viable, well and good. But those that will not become viable will either join the one that is viable or determine whatever they wanted to do.
So let me
So
clarify.
I am saying, if, for example, the people of South Sudan refuse or rejected
A federal state.
federal system, I would declare the Greater Upper Nile to be an autonomous region leading towards the right to self-determination.
Okay, thank you. So, do you have an opinion about this question about when the regime change will be tougher out? Do you think that? So, do you think about a federalism state will be in South Sudan if some right people will change it in the new system, the current system? What do you think about federal state? Do you think federal state will help South Sudanese to minimize the tribal war in South Sudan?
Yeah, I do believe federal state will actually reduce the tension of tribal conflict, and it will also remove tribalism, because each person will actually govern according to their own state. But I don't really agree with 10 state. I actually believe 10 state is a problem right now, because 10 state, it is making other community to claim that they are not involved in the government. And that's why there's a lot of issues in several regions in Upper Nile and in Barghazal, even in Equatoria itself. So I think if we topple the regime and we are talking of how our government would look like, we may go back to 21 state, because 21 state is actually a way to manage the tribal region, where the tribal region can really, they don't have any complaint. And this is a model was using during the British to manage the tribe in South Sudan. So 21 state is a whole idea to manage the tribe, so that each tribe will not claim that their land is being taken by another tribe, or maybe they feel insecure within another big tribe. So the British actually manage it, and it was a good model. We need to use it because it is
What do you
simple.
call it? What do you call it?
It's
colonialism model.
Yeah.
There was no federal in Sudan.
Yeah.
Sudan was governed as a unitary state. Federalism came after 1989.
Exactly. Yeah.
Up to now.
Right, yeah.
So Sudan was a unitary state from 1899 or 1898 up to 1956.
Okay.
And it continues to do so until 1989, when Bashir took over, and then they started to implement federalism up to now.
What do you think if the South Sudanese refuse the formation of federal state? What do you think? Do you think Upper Nile will be a sovereign state from South Sudan?
Yeah. If they refuse to form a federal state, I believe there will be a split. But the way the state are going to split is not the Upper Nile will go by itself, or maybe Equatoria go by itself. There will be two countries actually. This is the way I look at it. These two countries, they will be formed based on the state, and it will be based on two tribes that are men fighting, Denka and the Nuer. So if there will be this minority who feel like they are comfortable with the Denka, they will go with the Denka. Those minorities that feel they are comfortable with the Nuer will go with the Nuer. So we will end up, state are divided. So we will have two states.
I have a question. Do you think the problem in South Sudan is the Denka? Because they want to dominate the power?
Yes. I strongly believe the problem of South Sudan is actually tribalism Denka want to promote their domination over the other tribe. It is the main cause of the war, actually, domination. And these Equatorian, even if they are keeping quiet, they want to maintain what they call a kokra. Kokra mean also.
What does kokra mean?
Kokra mean they don't want any other people. Kokra in Equatorial, yeah, they don't like to live with other people. They want to live themselves. And that is the belief of so many small tribes in Equatoria. So that is why we have to be very careful about what our people are thinking there, the concept. Then where they believe on fighting, they also believe on to live on their own, their nation building. So these are the beliefs that can actually, if we try to search them, we can find our country. We don't need domination. We don't need to dominate other people. This can create a conflict.
Okay. Mr. Larjin, allow me to intervene.
Oh yes, go ahead, please.
Go ahead. Add something. So.
As a political scientist,
Yeah.
you understand, and a trained historian, modern historian, who understand history of Africa and history of Sudan and South Sudan in particular, I know for sure that if we cannot form a federal system that I favor, and because I'm an expert in it, then the best thing is that let each region declare its own autonomy. Eventually will become an independent sovereign state. Whatever happened within that region or that new created republic will have to deal with its internal matters to make sure that there's a system of balance within, that minorities within those states be given the right, but it will always be majority rule and minority rule. But that does not rule out that a minority could not become the president of any nation. Okay. So I think the best thing is, if federalism fails in South Sudan, let us split into 3 regions and let each region find out for its own problem.
Okay, thank you. Our show is over today, so we have a lot of discussion on conflict in South Sudan.
We'll continue.
But next time, so we will come back again, we will revise all the questions.
Okay.
So right now, so we will end the show. Next time we'll come back, and then we will brief the public media about the root cause of war, peace process, and also IGAD, the role of the IGAD and international community, not to push the 2 leaders to sign the agreement. And I think we'll be done for it, because the good thing right now, you declare a new party that will change a regime change.
That called for regime change.
A regime change. So,
Yeah.
so right now we'll end up the show. So next time we'll come back, and then we will brief
Okay, I should say.
people with some.
Thank you very much.
Want to
Thank
say
you.
something?
I just want to add a little bit of something. Here we go, guys. Salva Kiir and Riek Machar are the Perrier people. Can you imagine, as a president in your own country, you never go to Bentiu, you never go to Abatal, you never go to anywhere else, just within Juba and other country that you're visiting? Do you call yourself that you are a president? You are in a free country? Can you imagine, man? You failed the country, President Salva Kiir. You are out of the country now. Watch us.
Okay, thank
Well,
you.
I would like to say-
What about IDP? Because right now they extend the peace process into next year. All people are suffering in the IDP camp.
The philosophy, the political philosophy of South Sudan revolutionary movement for regime change is that we must meet people from UNAMIS, United Nations in South Sudan. That these people who have been confined to their compounds must be let go to their own respective countries, their own respective region. And that should be the job of UNAMIS. Okay?
Okay.
They must be given corridors for them to go to their own countries under the UN protection. Once they leave those compounds and they are closed, there's nothing. The United Nations peacekeeping forces can either be redistributed around South Sudan to protect those villages in their own, while they're doing their own farming, taking care of their own cattle, taking care of their own businesses. But I cannot condone continuity of
15 minutes.
of IDP,
Yeah.
IDP camps in UNAMIS in Juba.
Yeah, to
That's right.
emphasize on what Professor is saying is that we have 15 minutes that should wrap up. Is that UNAMIS, the issue of UNAMIS is that we are actually urging the United Nations across South Sudan to start helping with the facilitation of those refugees, to take them to their home.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, take them to their home wherever. If the war caught you in Upper Nile and you are from Equatoria, UN should facilitate you to Equatoria. If the war caught you in Equatoria, you are from Upper Nile, UN should facilitate. This is the work that we are going to coordinate with the UN strongly, and the UN should do that. So we are urging all the parties to support that, so that our people can actually be free from the trap of the war. The other thing is that this video series, we are going to bring it next time. We were supposed to be live for 2 hours, but unfortunately we are now, our time is up, and we wanted you to tune in. Maybe in 2 weeks or 3 weeks we will come on the same topic, because we want to exhaust a lot of things, including the discussion on the model that if we are, because we are going to make a regime change, if the regime is changed, then what will be the model of our country? What is the model of management, the affair of the country, and how will the state look like? All this we will discuss them in the next video. So I will say thank you very much for tuning in, and God bless you.
So I want to say something to tell South Sudanese, we need all to come together in one voice, because South Sudan right now, they fail to bring peace. Yes. So especially our leader. So I call all civilians, they will come up within one voice, because the two leaders, they fail us while people are suffering right now in the country. So next time we will come back, and then we will have another discussion. Thank you. Let us stand up.
Thank you very much.
Yes, Professor. Okay. Yep. Power unity.
Yeah, the power unity of the people of South Sudan.
Okay.
Yep, the regime must be changed
Yes.
by any means.
Necessary.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
So long.
Salam.
Here we are. Wala kayo. Mangaya. I let a professor shine. I got it. Give it full consideration.
Yeah, no, chat roll, chat lane, chat roll lane.
And what I don't want you.